All right, so welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. This is the episode number 25. Went far along already. And we are ending June, the half of the year. And thank you all for joining today. The Forge Coffee Break, it's an open space for any kind of questions you have, any kind of topics you want to bring up. And I see a lot of new names I haven't seen before. So welcome, thank you for joining. And if you have any topics or ideas that you'd like to bring up, please do so. Let's see. I see a few names that I know and a few names that I don't know. And you are also welcome to open your camera. Oh, hi, Stephen.
So.
Good morning.
Hello.
So, one face that I know.
Yeah, hello from now not quite so hot Oregon.
Oh, it's cooling down now?
Oh, it's lovely. I was sitting with my window open. I had to close the window because my feet were cold.
Oh, okay. So
which is such a wonderful feeling rather than...
You're just too British.
So if no one has a topic that they'd like to raise, I don't want to hijack the conversation, but you know, on behalf of our developer experience team, I'm doing some research. I wanted to ask a question of the coffee break attendees. So we're looking into whether we should invest in, trying to think of the best way to describe it, something like an online sandbox where you could, so if you're doing coding or you just wanted to play around with the APIs, an in-browser experience, the example I would use is something like CodePen, but that's mainly client-side code, but you can do the same thing for server-side code as well. So a kind of hosted environment where you have a framework set up that you could just come along, work through tutorials, play with some template projects, just to do experimentation without having to actually do all the fuss of launching your own web server and all of that kind of thing. So I'm interested if any of the attendees today, if you've had any experience with that, and if anybody has a strong opinion either way about whether that would be a useful thing for us to look into providing as to help people using the Forge APIs. I don't know if that made sense or not.
Yeah, I did. I'm just looking at Jaime. He's saying.
I say yes.
You don't count, Jaime. You don't count. You work for Autodesk.
But I helped this guy, so yes, all the way.
Yeah, you actually did some experimentation with this, didn't you, at one point? Yeah. Did you use CodePen mostly?
Yeah, CodePen, and then also another one that it's on the server side. So you're able to run like an OJS server directly on the browser. Some other documentation that I have in the past, also they're able to do just quickly like REST endpoints directly there in order to just kind of give you an idea of what is expected to get in return. So yeah.
So
I know that people that came, some of the names I see here, they came to some of the accelerators, and sometimes have this very common scenario where they are not developers, right? So I think that's a good people to get an opinion. And
yeah, I mean, if people don't want to speak, I mean, maybe we could ask people to do a quick reaction. So
okay, good point.
I don't know. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should have a reactions button, and there's a yes, a little tick, and there's a no, which is a little cross. So maybe we could ask people who are on the meeting now to select a tick if you think it's a good idea, or a cross if you think it's not. Okay, Fernando says it's a good idea.
I see there is a comment from Bobby, and if you want to open your microphone, you're welcome to. But he says that sounds useful for those of us learning to move from desktop to cloud-based development. Yeah.
Okay, so either everyone's actually not drunk enough coffee yet and they're not really paying attention, or no one, other than Fernando. Ah, here we go. Bobby thinks it's a good idea as well, and Tade as well. Anyone else care to express opinion?
I can speak. I was on the last creator. Actually, when I was a last creator last week, I tried both of them. I tried the local one and Azure. Local one seems to me, I'm not a developer. I'm an architect, mainly I'm BIM manager. The local one seems to be for me much more easier, and somehow I can debug it. The cloud system, it's more advanced, more professional, especially if you need to deploy your project. Maybe I can use it for me at last stage of my project. I can develop everything in local. Then the final steps will be on the cloud.
Okay.
Because it will be also less expensive, and I can try it without internet connection, or I can modify it directly.
That's a good point. Yeah. It gives you more control, and you can do it on a plane or something when there's no Wi-Fi. Not that we do that kind of thing anymore. Flying.
Yeah, I think that raises an interesting point, right? Being able to debug at some level, or having a way to track what's going on. So yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, because when I was using Azure, actually, I have to make debugging twice, one of my code and one at Azure. So actually, I don't know, is it working with Azure, not working with me so much? It was at least difficult for me. But when I worked, especially with Michael, he showed me too many ways to debug in using directly in Chrome and Microsoft code.
Yeah, actually, I mean, another point there is obviously that's a kind of tangential point from that is if we did do this, it would need to be connected to debugging tools, like you say. So yeah.
Stephen, could you just rephrase the question again?
In what way? I mean, I could try in French, but my French isn't very good.
We have people that joined after you post the question.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask the question again then. So basically, we're wondering whether there is value in investing in having a web, a sandbox hosted on the Forge website where people can come, and when you're doing the tutorials, instead of having to download NPM packages or whatever your package of choice is to your local desktop and set up a local environment and build a web server just to be able to debug some code. It's basically you'd have a web server hosted and accessible from our website with a user interface where you can debug the code and edit the code and debug it on the website. So basically, when you're doing a tutorial, you just go in and a console is sitting there that you can play with. So something like CodePen, and I forget if it's Microsoft or AWS. When I was doing their tutorials, they had something similar. So that's what kind of thing we're asking. Would it be helpful to have a kind of hosted sandbox so that people didn't have to spin up their own or set up all their own local host environments just to do some basic experimentation with the APIs? And it looks like Chuck gave me a thumbs up as well.
Fernando, you raised a hand. You can open the microphone if you want.
Yeah. So just a comment about that. So Stephen, actually, if you think about today, what we do in Chrome console, it's kind of a playground, a complex one, right? So you need to deeply understand how the API is structured. So if you think about that, maybe a simple version of a console or something like that would allow simple tests for somebody that is just starting with the API, that would be, really useful.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not getting like, oh my word, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard from people. I'm getting a slight, yeah, this would be quite nice, but no kind of, this would be life-changing. Second question.
I just want to add, Stephen, we have tried it, both Peter Bros and I both tried the CodePen approach. It didn't seem to get that much traction though.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. So another question then, is there any, so let's take that a step further. So think of something like Salesforce, where I can write applications and I just have to worry basically about the client-side code. So in case of Salesforce, using their Apex code, and my code that I write, my custom code, runs on the Salesforce server. So Salesforce take care of hosting my code and keeping the server up and running. And basically, let's say I'm creating a dashboard or something, or a simple data entry form. Literally, I write the code. It's on the Salesforce server, and I can send my team there, and that dashboard is hosted, and I've got my custom code there, and I don't have to worry about running and maintaining a server just in order to do something like a dashboard or a simple data entry form. So would that kind of capability be useful to people? So the ability for us to actually host, I'm not talking about really complicated applications like a complex, finite element analysis simulation or something like that, but things like simple forms, simple dashboards like Hyperion type dashboards. Would that be valuable for people if they could just write the client-side code and we would host it on our servers for you, and you didn't have to worry about maintaining a secure, reliable server just to run some simple applications? Again, if people want to do a use every action and do a tick if they think that would help them, and a cross if it doesn't.
So could you flesh that example out a little bit more, Stephen? What exactly is Autodesk hosting for a customer? Just a static web page, or are they actually processing something?
Yeah, it would be processing as well. I mean, probably we'd base it on Lambda functions, because we wouldn't want to keep a server running for every single application that was hosted. But let's say the classic use for LMV is a dashboard, and you want to expose that dashboard to your enterprise. You want to write, have LMV with Hyperion, so you've got some IoT data coming in, say, and you just want to run that thing, and you're happy to write a client-side code. But at the moment, to do that, you also have to write create your web server, you have to run your web server, you have to maintain your web server. So we basically host the code for you, and whenever someone comes there, your web application, your single page application is just sitting there ready for them to use.
I mean, that sounds cool, but it's still it's too vague. That sort of, are you providing a service like GitHub Pages? Are you providing a Lambda function like Amazon, or are you providing a Heroku server like Heroku? And those are three completely different things.
Yeah, and we haven't got that far yet, Michael. But the examples I'm using is Salesforce. I mean, there's also, if Adobe have their Firefly framework where they host simple code for you. Atlassian have their Forge UI framework, nothing to do with our Forge. Same thing, where you can write apps that extend Confluence and Jira, and they host your apps, and the apps are surfaced in the Confluence application, in the Jira application, but you just have to worry about the business logic. You don't have to worry about the hosting logic. So the app is surfaced in product. Imagine in BIM 360, your app is actually surfaced as a tab in BIM 360, which you can do now, through the what do you call them, cards, for partner cards. But we're also hosting that code, so you don't, you're not having to spin up an AWS or Azure instance or something. You're literally just writing the code, and we're hosting it.
Fusion 360 Manage has something like that as well, running
scripts. They're going along.
Yeah,
they're going along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a script that is hosted there. Yeah, I think it's something to consider as well. I think we got the round of thumbs up or thumb down. Okay.
I didn't see that many thumbs going up though. Sort of 2 or 3. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. I don't want to hog the conversation anymore. Let me just leave it with, if anyone does have strong opinions on that, I'd love to hear more from you.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Coming from someone, my primary experience with coding was from the front end, from JavaScript, HTML. I'm familiar with CodePen, and I would just say that being forced to set up a local server and get into Node.js and more of the back end, I think was critically important to understanding everything that would go into establishing the app, both the front end and the back end. My fear is that if there was this kind of very front end based way for people to experiment with the code, they'd be at a loss with those fundamental steps. I think that's, and coming from the architecture side, most American architecture firms are very small outfits with very little experience with textual coding at all. And whenever the Forge team or Autodesk supplies the instructions for doing the whole thing, front end and back end, it's a tremendous help. And my fear would be that it would kind of pivot towards, hey, here's this front end piece, just go into the web browser and build this front end piece. And then when you need to do it for your company, for your organization or your enterprise, you're at a total loss. That would be my fear.
Okay, thanks, Moses.
That's a great question. Stephen, are these tools for developers, or are these for the developers that deploy it to production so that their business is using production?
So there's two examples I gave. The tutorial example is obviously for, developers who are learning, potentially, people who are not very experienced with web development. The latter thing I talked about would actually be for business. It would be like, so you don't have to learn to create a web server anymore. You just have to worry about the client side code. And as long as you write it inside the framework that we provide, we will host that code for you and run it and make sure that you have a secure, reliable server, which is running your code whenever you need it.
Got it. And they'd be able to, and we would also manage the DNS alias. Is that correct? So if they wanted to have a web page that's hosted by, McDonald's.com, we would provide that service as well.
Yes, we could do. I mean, this doesn't exist yet, so I can say yes to everything. That would be part of the requirements gathering. But, it's just a general concept at the moment. Let's assume that we can.
Yeah, it sounds very much like GitHub Pages.
Yeah,
it looks like that to me as well. It's hosted there. You just have to load it, right?
But
it's only the JavaScript side, right? It doesn't include somebody who wants to code a .NET server. They want to do more than just an access token. They want to spin up design automation for Revit.
I think what Stephen is planning here, or my understanding at least, it's something very, very basic. Design automation is on the far complex side of Forge on that perspective. Yeah.
That one is not even like very client side wise. Right?
Yeah, it's server side. Yeah.
Yeah. The obvious ones are viewer kind of applications.
A good place to start, right?
Yeah, and obviously, the advantage of us hosting is it's then integrated with Autodesk ID, so that people who are using BIM 360 or Fusion or whatever, you have that integration with the sign-ons they already have with the Autodesk products.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So I'll just finish with for people who might not want to express an opinion now, but if you have any ideas, I'd love it if you could drop me an email so you can see my name on the screen. So stephen.preston@autodesk.com. If you have opinions on this and would like to give some feedback, I'd love to hear from you. And now I'm going to shut up and let someone else raise a topic.
Thank you, Stephen. This was a good one.
Thanks for letting me.
Okay, can I speak?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Today I found a topic written with Peter. Unfortunately, Peter is not here, about AR/VR toolkit. I downloaded the toolkit and I made some modification to run on the last version of Unity. And also I modified to work with the VR headset using Steam VR. It works perfect using one of your examples. It's have already some URN, etc. But I have a question. This uploaded model was uploaded using Forge or using BIM 360?
The AR/VR toolkit?
Yeah.
Where is the model coming from? Is that a question?
Yeah.
That's coming from. Yeah, I can answer that. That's coming from my account, and it's on a Forge bucket. So it's two-legged authentication.
So if I need to upload my model and have some URN model and access token and scene ID, which part can I use? Can I use Forge or BIM 360?
You can use either, but you need to not use the basic introduction. So the basic introduction took all the complexity of uploading, converting, and hosting those model files. To get you to focus on the Unity side of the problem. Now that you've solved that and you've got the Unity side working, now it's time to revisit the Forge side of it. How do you host, convert, how do you upload and convert your own models? And that falls more under the Forge umbrella rather than the Forge toolkit umbrella. But it's fairly straightforward to do. It's just not documented on the Forge toolkit website. That's documented under the learnforge.autodesk.com.io website.
So when I upload my model to Forge, I can get the model URN, but I cannot get or find any access token or scene ID. Because I sent some screenshot. You can see that there are 3 parameters: model URL, access token, and scene ID. If I upload it using 4G, I can easily get the URL, but the other 2 I couldn't find it.
Yeah, so there's a the whole process is it's probably just easier if you use, say, Visual Studio Code, upload, convert your model, get a URN, key and secret, and then use curl scripts to activate the Forge Toolkit server so that it processes and creates a scene ID. And so you're going to be using the scene ID, the URN, and a Forge key secret as input into the Forge AR/VR toolkit. But honestly, we should probably we probably need to figure out what size models you're working with. If they're really, really big models or they're tiny models, that's going to make a difference. And I would maybe suggest an alternative if you could take some of that conversation and ideas offline, though.
My model is approximately 90 megabytes.
It's how big is it?
90.
Revit file or Navisworks?
Yeah, Revit file.
Okay, so it's pretty tiny. Okay, yeah, that should be fine.
Because I was just testing it, I don't need to use a very huge model, just basic for now. Okay, in Unity, when you need to make some teleport, you need some surface teleported. Mainly, if I don't have a cloud model from 4G, I can just choose the surfaces and assign this one. It will be for teleporting using VR. But when I get my cloud model, is there a way that can I assign teleporting for these surfaces or not?
Now, when you mean surfaces, do you mean for like an AR experience where you specify the ground plane and say, this is where the model needs to land? Is that what you mean?
No, when I'm using the VR headset, when I use the joystick to teleport, going from place to another place, normally in Unity, I assign surfaces and assign, I have 2 ways. Either I assign point to teleport from this place to this place, or I can assign a full surfaces that use this surface to move and teleport using these surfaces in any point you want. But when I get some model from the cloud using 4G, I cannot assign it. Is there a way or how normally?
Right, so that's more of a Unity question. When you pull in a model into Unity, every mesh gets a collider added to it, and that collider is going to be what's used for your teleporter. Your teleporter needs a hit test and then decides with physics where your capsule, your person capsule, is located off the ground. By default, everything that's loaded from Forge, every single mesh has a collider associated with it. So effectively, you can jump around on top of anything. There's no specific surfaces assigned.
So can I suggest that maybe Mountain, just to get some time with Peter, maybe he can, or Michael as well, maybe we can have like one time allocated with you. Let me show you something. If you haven't tried that before, if you go to the Forge website and there is a community page, and then you go to all events, and here's the coffee break we're doing today, and there is also a one-on-one time that you can get with any of us. So just click here and book an appointment. It's just because that can be very deep, specific conversation. Maybe better to get a time with Peter. He can run the details with you. So essentially, just select the person. And next month, because we just end in June, and in July, let's say the 14th, get a time here. This is showing on my time zone, but that will show for your time zone. And yeah, that may be easier way to go deep dive on a topic. That was the same question that I saw from, where is it? Mitali. Yeah, you can do that as well. So if you, Mitali, I hope I'm saying this right. Okay. If you come here, you can book a time with any of us and deep dive on any topic that you believe. And I see that Toge, you are Unity certified instructor. That looks cool. Yeah. So let me share the link to this thing here, and so everyone can try it. So that's a better way to go deep dive on one topic. and hope that helps. Just taking the opportunity to share that. We keep talking about the coffee break a few times.
Okay, thanks.
So, Toge, would you like to share? You said that you are an instructor. You'd like to share some information on how to contact you?
Oh yeah, of course. You can find me on LinkedIn, guys. Just type my name and yeah, you can find me there.
Well, you brought it up, so I'm bringing you to the hotspot. Cool. All right. Sorry to interrupt. I was just mentioning because we are almost finishing our time today, and I would like to get a chance to others to ask or to bring topics. Moses, go ahead.
Quick question. I'm encountering issues about databases, choosing which database to use to go from Revit to a database, or a Forge application to a database. It's looking like a cloud database would be the ideal option. I'm trying to figure out the REST API piece. Should I book one-on-one time at the? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can.
I'll do that.
And just taking the opportunity, when it comes to databases, we Autodesk, we are planning to develop more and more services on how to host data. And as a general guideline, it's what we're suggesting is to have databases as hosted managed services, right? So instead of you hosting your database, the direction we are going is to have that as a hosted service. So let's say AWS, DynamoDB, that's the name, right? The managed database they have. So that's usually a better approach. So a very generic instruction or suggestion. But if you have specific question, Moses, yes, please do book a time. It can be with any of us. I would actually suggest you to get a time with Dennis Grigor. So he's working very closely with our internal team that is working on data, and he will have very fresh perspective on that. So yeah, Dennis will be someone to talk to, and he will give you directions on where we are going with data. And okay, hope that answers your question. And there is one more from Vaish. Yeah, you raise your hand. You can open your microphone.
Regarding the data, so I'm trying to load a very large model, light rail project. So it takes a lot of time, and I was thinking of skipping the property DB using the viewer options. And it does that. I'm successful at skipping the property DB. It doesn't come in, the model loads faster. But the issue I'm seeing is whenever I select something, the selection doesn't work as expected. It selects another object.
Okay, so first instead of the property DB, have you tried SVF2?
These models are in BIM 360. And SVF2, I think those models are not getting converted to SVF2.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so new models on BIM 360 should be translated to SVF2 at some point. Maybe your account's not there yet, but yeah, so SVF2 will be the first option. The second option is to do the property DB, to skip that one. About this, what happens when you don't have the property DB is that the system don't have the information about that element. So it may be the case here. If you're experiencing something different, can you please maybe log a video or share some information on what you are seeing and send that to forge.help@autodesk.com. We can investigate that better. If you have property DB not to load and it's causing problems, that should not happen. Maybe there is a problem there, and you need to investigate. So collect the details and send to forge.help@autodesk.com. I will type here on the chat window, because then that will need some deeper investigation on the topic.
Sure. Yeah, will do. Great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. And yeah, Mitali, go ahead.
Hi. So in the last week in the accelerator, I had one issue which was not resolved. I guess only Michael or Peter can help me with that. So can I book
so either
them?
way, yeah, you can book a time with either of them, Michael or Peter, or you can submit that to Forge Help. the advantage of submitting on the Forge help is that anyone on the team can help. You just have to describe the problem, or provide information, provide images, whatever you can do to help us understand the problem. Booking a time, it's also great, that can work. The difference is that sometimes there is something that we need to investigate, and if it's something that you can do on email, that may be easier and maybe faster, right? So yeah, look at two options. I would say that if there is any code involved, maybe the email is better, because you can write your code, we can clearly understand what's going on, and then you can book a time to discuss the results. Of course, you can send a message to Forge Help, and with information about the problem, and asking us to contact you and send you a Zoom invite. We can do that as well. The system to book a time is just for you to find a time. But if you send us a message, you can definitely book a time. Just specify which time zone you are and what are the best times to contact you back, and we can definitely arrange a call.
Okay, I guess Zhao Leong has already created one ticket for that, and he put it on the Forge help at autodesk.com.
Okay, yeah. So just follow on the ticket and ask to get a time. We can definitely reach you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we're just a few minutes ahead of time. So let me go back here. And we're trying to keep this very close to 30 minutes. And so, you can always join. And the next coffee break will be in 2 weeks, same time, same link. As the same as happened today. We're hoping to have a guest on the next coffee break, so stay tuned for that. And in 2 weeks, see you here again, and thank you for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.